It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
Time to talk cars for the next 60 minutes on your weekly automotive radio show. I'm Nick Miles. You're listening to America's automotive radio show, Test Miles, locally created, nationally celebrated. This morning's team includes Misfits, Rapscallions, Ne'er-do-wells, Sean Walker, everybody's favorite dad, Brad Boyer, except by his kids maybe, and also our savant intern Zhenya is here. I want to take a moment to wish a local automotive journalist a happy birthday, Barbara Schaefer. Very happy birthday to you. A glass of Prosecco on Test Miles, you classy Italian lady. Also, racer Kyle Keenum, his birthday today. I hear he's actually shorter than me. And Jamie Holmes from Coin celebrates her birthday as well. Okay, this is the part of the show when we talk about and review the cars that we have been test driving for the week. I did a couple of back-to-back tests. Did the Lexus GS and ES. So let's talk about the GS first of all. I think probably my favorite of the two. Four-door full-size sedan, capable handling with refined ride comfort, high-quality interior, cutting-edge safety, and of course a pretty good entertainment system. Electronic interface could be a little bit distracting. I find the base system that Lexus Toyota use for their infotainment was challenging. They've done a lot of improvements to it. Let's talk about engines. 3.5-litre V6, 306 horsepower, 6-speed automatic or 8-speed automatic, rear-wheel or all-wheel drive. Fuel economy is not bad. I will tell you, I do prefer the hybrid, who gets much better fuel economy, but for the regular engine, 23 miles combined, 19 city, 29 highway. For the all-wheel drive, 21 combined, 19 city, 26 highway. What does it go up against in the competition? If you're shopping for the Lexus GS, you're probably also looking at BMW's 5 Series, Mercedes E-Class, Audi's A6, Infinity's Q70, Acura's RDX, if you're looking for something in the SUV lineup. Not quite so luxury, Chrysler's 300 or the Volvo S80. I will tell you, the GS is kind of a difficult one because it seems to bridge two different classes. You're talking about mid-size and full-size luxury, so it sort of sits right there in between. There are a number of trim levels, the 350, 350 F Sport, the 450H, which is a hybrid, and the 450H F Sport. Of course, that was the best of all worlds, driving the Sport. $55,135 is not a bad starting price, I don't think, for that car. Turning to the ES, this is a full-size sedan. It's smooth V6 engine, very comfortable. Not quite as sporty as the GS. Its handling is luxurious. It's well-built interior, lots of legroom. Navigation system, again, the interface between the ICE, in-car entertainment, and navigation, kind of tough. 3.5-litre V6, a little less horsepower, 268, 6-speed automatic, front-wheel all-wheel drive, 24 miles a gallon combined. That's 21 city, 31 highway. And again, up against pretty much the same cars. Trim levels, 300H, 350. So this is sort of the smaller car. I know a lot of racers, and 38,940. So the GS being the bigger car, the more powerful car, and the one with a lot more options, and actually the one with a new front end as well, since they redesigned it, showed it off at Pebble Beach for the first time. I think if I'm looking for cars, either the ES or the GS, I'm going with the GS. $20,000 more, maybe $15,000 more, but I think the car is so much better. Whichever they are both two very fine vehicles, and I would have no trouble owning either of them. Sean?
I've been driving the Toyota Tundra Crew Max, and I really love the interior in this truck. I've been wanting to drive it since it was released, I don't know how long ago, 5-6 months ago. And its competition's the Chevy Silverado, Ram 1500, and Ford F-150. And I think it's a better truck than all of those. The fuel economy on it's kind of bad. It gets 13 miles to the gallon on average. And to me, when you're getting like 20 and 25 out of the F-150 and the Ram, the fuel economy is pretty bad. But other than that, it's a great ride.
Imagine what happened if you had to load this up with concrete and plywood and tools.
I think long term, though, this truck will outlast those trucks. It's built tough, and I mean actually rugged, and actually drives.
That's a Ford slogan.
I know, and I said that, but it's like the way this truck handles, it drives like an old school truck, but it's very easy to move around in parking lots and everything.
Do you think American truck buyers can settle for Tundra? Because really, let's be honest, this truck has had a hard time getting a foothold in the marketplace.
And I understand that because it's like basically the buyers that go out for trucks now, they're so diehard that they grew up a Chevy or a Ram or
a Ford
and that's what they want. And no matter what, that's what they're going to get. And I believe if they even just drove this truck, they would like it.
You think the Titan's going to make any headway in this this market? Not at all.
That's why I didn't
even
put
with
it
that
in the competition.
Cummins diesel with the engine.
Maybe I doubt it.
I think it's going to jump all over the competition.
I highly doubt it, though. Right.
Let's see. Mark this date, September 27th on the calendar. Let's go back to next year, see how Titan sales are. I think it's with the Cummins diesel in it. I think it's going to.
So we're marking this date to see if Sean is wrong.
Yeah.
Do we do that every day?
When? When, Sean?
Okay. When is Sean wrong? I don't think he'll beat up again or go up against the Ram or some of the other diesels.
Well, the Ram might be a challenge for it, but there is not a diesel right in the Ford, and there's not a diesel in Silverado.
It's a mistake, but I'm not making the trucks. The interior on this truck is actually one of the best things. They have hand-stitched little stitching patterns all through it, little cross patterns, and I actually enjoyed that they have a spot for a cell phone. Right. In the center console, you can actually put your cell phone in there. It doesn't slide around, and it's not a cup holder, which more manufacturers need to start doing.
You know, let's think about that. I think more people use cup holders for their cell phones than anything else.
Because there's no other place to put a cell phone.
Right.
And this place, there's actually a divot in the center console to lay your cell phone.
Yeah, they do really well with that. I always like the Venza because when you plugged any of your items in, there was places for the cables to go, which were like through the center console and out. So
Toyota is the only manufacturer that actually gets that you need a place for your cell phone. And how to hide a bunch of cables because you don't want to
actually, that's not the Silverado has a place for cell phone too.
Silverado has like 50 USB jacks, so you can hide it somewhere.
15, only a 35 exaggeration, but not bad.
Yeah.
All right. Good price?
You can get into one for $2,800. The one that I was test driving was $47,000.
Yeah, that's the trouble with these cars.
Yeah.
Is you like $2,800 starting, but then it's double the price if you want something you really want to drive.
Yes.
Brad.
I had a chance to drive the new 2016 Nissan Maxima, which is their full-size luxury, kind of an entry-level luxury vehicle for Nissan.
4DSC, four-door sports car. That's what they call it.
Is that
4DSC?
Well, as a sports car, it looks like a sports car. It doesn't quite match up to its design because it's fully redesigned, and it's really to be differentiating between that and its sister car, the Altima.
Right. Which
and that
now
was
they've
kind
made
of
the Altima
problem.
look exactly like it.
Yeah, of course. But all 5 trim levels on this vehicle come with a 3.5 liter V6, 300 horsepower, and 25 combined mileage. So it's pretty solid on that.
I will tell you that Kia Optima, I think, was probably the favorite in the class. This may take the number one spot for me. This car.
It had everything. What I really liked is they stepped up the interior on this vehicle.
Yes, they did.
And my favorite feature, being a bigger, girthier kind of guy, is their zero-gravity seats that I first drove in the Altima a few years ago. NASA designed, where it takes all the pressure.
Feels like you're sitting on the Michelin, man.
Yeah, you can drive 3 hours and not feel it at all. Right. So it's great.
Alcantara, too, right, on the interior.
Yes. And it does come with a couple of USB ports, so Sean will be happy about that, unlike the VWs. And base price for the S starts at about $33,000. You can go through 5 different levels up to the Platinum, which starts at $39,900, but prices tested is about $45,000.
My favorite feature on this car and the navigation screen, if you have your navigation screen, you can swipe it so it goes in between the gauges. So you can grab it in the corner and pull it over, and it jumps in between your tachometer and your miles per hour.
It's spectacular. The
speedometer.
The thing that I really like too, and on the Platinum, it's available. The 360 camera. Mm-hmm. Nissan does a nice job with their in-car cameras.
Yeah, they were the first company to do the 360 around view monitors.
It was, I think, the first time I drove that was in the Quest, and that was really handy.
Very first vehicle was 2008 in the what is now the QX50. Was the FX 45, 35 at that point. Yeah.
So it competes with the Avalon, which does have a bigger back seat. The Maxima's so-so interior space. Also the Acura TLX, which is kind of interesting because that's theoretically that next level up luxury car.
Right.
And maybe the Hyundai Azera. But it's top of the list for me.
Out of those cars, I'm thinking the Maxima is probably my choice.
I agree.
I think. Well, maybe the Toyota, the Avalon's kind of nice. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. All right, Brad, thanks very much. Coming up on the show this morning, we're going to be talking a little bit about an event that happened in the Northwest over the last week or so. 25 cars, 25 journalists. We drove them all around the Northwest, despite the fact the Chinese premier was trying to interrupt us and close freeways down. We'll also be talking about big news. VW, of course, the diesel scandal deepens this morning with a letter from Bosch that says 2007 was the first time they were warned about misleading the public. All that coming up on Test Miles, FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
Welcome back to Test Miles. Here's a question. Does your car make you look more sexy? Go to testmiles.com, find the results. It may surprise you and disappoint you somewhat.
So here's an interesting fact. The Little Deuce Coupe that we've heard so much in song wasn't just for hot rodders because it had a V8 and was both cheap and reliable. The Ford Model B was the cop car of choice in the 30s and ultimately led to many precincts sticking with the Ford for years after that.
There you go. A little history about cop cars. And if you happen to be in Seattle area this week and you were running around, apart from the Chinese premier, you may have seen a motorcade of around 25 of the sportiest cars from around the U.S. It was the Northwest Automotive Press Association annual Run to the Sun event. 25 drivers, 25 cars over 2 days. And the Portland Tribune's John Vincent led the group off in a Dodge Charger Police Edition, the Pursuit Charger, actually. John, is your inner 12-year-old feeling better now?
Yes, it is. A full day in a all-wheel drive Charger Hemi. The only way you can get all-wheel drive and a Hemi together.
So let me ask you this question. How hard was it not to push those lights and sirens?
Fortunately, I had somebody else in the car with me to slap my hand every time I reached for it.
Thank you, Erin Kemp, by the way, from Page One. She was the hand slapper for the day. But you did manage to use the PA a few times, right?
I did.
Yes. Drivers, please start your engines. It was, can someone take that away from John, please?
And it was, Nick, are you sure you want to do that?
Yes. I need policing at all times. So let's talk about some of the cars. First of all, let's get into that police charge. Pretty exact as it would be delivered to a municipality.
It was missing some of the weight they would have if it were a true cop car. It didn't have the cage or the radios or some of the other really heavy stuff. But it had the brakes, had the engine, had the all-wheel drive, column shifter, which is interesting.
I noticed actually. I did notice you shifting that. It was a little weird, should we say? It
was a little weird. Column shifter with auto stick as a button on the shifter.
And purely the column shifter is there because
all the radios and light controls are down the center console.
Right. And you can't do much about it from that because also, too, once you put an MDT in there, a mobile data terminal, it takes up where the shifter would actually go.
Although in the 2016 Charger Pursuit, they've integrated the laptop into the car and put in a 12.1-inch display screen.
Right. So that'll be different. And that car is going to be here very soon, so we'll be able to test that as well.
Let's hope so.
Yes. Oh, at least 2 weeks in that to evaluate and see if police departments should buy it anywhere. I actually talked to Jason Kemp from Ford and said, when can I get into your Explorer police vehicle? And he said, I don't need any help selling them. Thank you for selling quite enough.
And they came out with 2 police vehicles last year thinking they'd sell a lot of the Taurus version. And nobody's buying the Taurus, but everybody's driving that Explorer.
Exactly. All right, let's talk about the vehicles. You have a list in front of you. Let's maybe go down some of them. Well, your feelings.
Well, I was only in the rotation for half of it, so I didn't get in any of the really, really fast stuff. But,
so choose your cars. Tell me what you thought of them. Actually, first of all, let's read off the list of the cars we had in the event so people have a good idea of what we were driving.
Long list. Cadillac ATS-V.
Brand new, of course.
Brand new. Buick Regal GS all-wheel drive.
Surprising would be my one word covering that.
Absolutely. Corvette Stingray. You have to have a Corvette Stingray on this event.
Right.
4C Spider, the new drop-top version of the Alfa Romeo 4C.
Probably, I would say, one of the most popular cars in the event.
And one of the loudest.
Yes.
Charger Hellcat,
Fabulous.
another one of the loudest.
Yep.
Viper, you have to have a Viper in this event too.
Right.
And that's just a street legal race car.
Right.
Fiat 500, a Barth Cabrio automatic.
Right.
Great automatic.
And the one thing I love about this vehicle is you can take the top up and down at, I think it's 60 miles an hour, 58 or something.
Yeah, it's not really a true convertible because the sides stay up.
Right. It's like an old world European convertible where the sort of canvas bit peels back in the middle, right?
It's like an old Fiat.
Yeah.
Nissan Maxima SR, I think the same one that Brad was driving. Nissan 370Z Nismo.
A lot rougher, I would say, than I expected it to be.
Definitely pretty harsh.
Hardcore sports car.
Absolutely. Subaru 2016 WRX STI Series Hyper Blue. This is a limited edition series that they're only making 700 of.
And to me, that blue is a little bit too much. I mean, a lot of people who are hardcore Subaru fans would probably want it, but the car amazing, the blue a little bit. Whoa, hello, good morning.
I think with this, a lot of people thought when they saw Hyper Blue, they thought the typical Subaru racing blue. This is not it. It's much lighter and brighter than that.
Isn't it kind of like a baby blue North Carolina color?
It's like a deep sky blue North Carolina, Tar Heel color. Jag F-Type Coupe, one of the best sounding vehicles out there.
Right. Yeah, and I would also throw in there, in a straw poll, a lot of people's favorite from the event.
I would agree.
Right.
Rolls-Royce Ghost 2.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
So, at some point, people have to ride thirds in cars. There's some swapping around. Guess what they wanted to ride thirds in when they got to ride in the back? Yes, of course, the Rolls-Royce Ghost.
Of course.
And the Mercedes, the Maybach. We'll talk about that in a second.
Mazda MX-5, the newest version of the venerable Miata.
Right.
Kia Forte Coupe SX. The least expensive car in the fleet, but one of the best in its class.
And I think probably one of the most underrated as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They've never really got traction with the Forte. It's never been anywhere close to a Civic or Corolla numbers in sales, but it's one of the better cars.
I would take it over either of those two competitors.
Yeah.
Kind of on its farewell tour this year, Mitsubishi Lancer Evo MR.
Yeah, that's a great car. We're coming up to a break here. We've got a bunch more cars to get through. And then we haven't even started talking about them. We're still reading the list.
Yeah.
John Vincent here from the Portland Tribune. We're talking about the Run to the Sun cars that the Northwest Automotive Press Association had on that event. When we come back, more about those cars and which we thought were the better performers and some surprises as well at the event. I'm Nick Miles. You're listening to FM News 101 KXL.
Favorite us, tweet us, friend us, love us, all at testmiles.com.
Live from our studios in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning, this is America's Car Radio Show. We'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. For more fun facts about cars, just visit our Facebook page at TestMilesENT.
Here's a fun fact so you can impress your friends with. The Alpha 156 was the first car in the world to be fitted with a common rail diesel engine.
Oh, there you go. There's more diesel coming up, by the way, if you were worried we weren't going to talk about it. VW is on the agenda today. John, we left off at the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo, the MR version. Sad to see this car go. There will not be a replacement.
There will not be a replacement, but there will be a final edition that they'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks.
I will tell you the replacement will be a PHEV, though. We'll see. Yep. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's continue down the list.
Next car up, the hot Volkswagen Golf R.
Yeah, a lot of people looking forward to driving this. An amazing vehicle, definitely a competitor for the Subaru STI WRX STI, but $40,000, pretty heavy price tag.
It gets up there very quickly, yes.
Right.
Lexus RCF.
Still one of my favorite sports cars. That and the MX-5. Probably 2 cars you must own when I win the lottery, along with the F-Type, which would be my daily driver.
Yeah, that's the Lexus for Lexus buyers who want a sports car.
Right.
Scion FRS, brother to the Subaru BRZ.
Right.
Super lightweight, fun to drive. Speaking of not super lightweight, S-Class Maybach.
Right.
Quite the sled.
Yeah, now they're going to build a Pullman edition, which is basically a stretch limo. But look forward to a 100,000, 200,000, 250,000 price tag on that. Maybe more. Maybe 400,000 price tag.
We're just going to get the new Lincoln instead.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
The Ford Mustang, we had 2 versions, the big V8 GT and the EcoBoost, 2 different flavors.
And what are your thoughts? Surprisingly, I like the EcoBoost better.
I like the EcoBoost. It drives great. Its build quality is fantastic. It needs a little bit more noise. It doesn't sound like a Mustang.
Right.
But with the mileage it gets, it's a great trade-off.
I would have a daily driver of that.
We had a couple Acuras, the ILX and the RLX Sport Hybrid.
Right.
The RLX being a winner in our green car event this summer.
Right. Love them both. The ILX, huge improvement over the last edition. And the RLX, a surprising drive. Most people I know that when they got into that car, they were like, whoa, that's very different than I thought it was going to be.
And it also has some of the most affordable autonomous driving features of any vehicle on the road.
Yes. And 4 engines. 1 in the transmission, 2 in the rear wheels, and 1 in the front, right? Yes.
Yes.
4 engines.
Honda Accord, we had the 2016, a kind of a unique flavor of the 2016. We had a coupe with a manual transmission.
Most surprising thing I've seen about this is that the Acura, they put the dual-eyed headlights in the Accord now. The same as what the Acuras you have in it. And interestingly enough, pulling things down from the luxury brand into the non-luxury brand very fast. I didn't expect that to happen quite so quick.
No, nobody expected that to happen as quickly as it has. And you kind of wonder what the folks at Acura are thinking about Honda getting all their really fancy new stuff so quickly.
They have to come up with more fancy new stuff. That's what they have to do.
Exactly. And then last but not least, we had a Hyundai Veloster out there.
Surprising, the turbo version. Surprising with this vehicle. Performs great. Just a great little sporty car.
Yep, at a good price.
All right, so pick your top 5, John.
My top 5. Just because I had it on the best stretch of road we had, the WRX STI Subaru.
Right.
I had it on a twisty set with gravel, and it was perfect.
Right.
I like the Abarth Cabrio.
Okay.
Probably the best automatic sports car in the market right now, because the automatic is so quick.
Right.
F-Type Coupe. How can you not like the F-Type Coupe?
Is that 3? Or is
That's
that 4?
3.
All right. You got 2 more.
Charger Hellcat.
Right.
Just because Charger Hellcat.
Right.
And the ATS-V. Cadillac ATS-V.
Really?
It's a Cadillac with a ton of power.
Right.
Just a ton of power. It was a blast to drive.
I would say my top 5 of the vehicles that we drove would be the Alfa Romeo 4C Spider. I could date a different person every day with this car because everybody loves it. Everybody flocks around it. You know, everybody wants to be you because you have it. The Dodge Hellcat, the Charger Hellcat, unbelievable vehicle. Probably, I would say, one of my favorites in the event. The F-Type, clearly the car I would buy if I won the lottery. The Ghost 2, and I would say the MX-5. The MX-5, Mazda did such a good job with that vehicle. It's an unbelievable, fun-spirited drive.
It is fantastic, and they did such a good job of taking it back to its lightweight, simple sports car roots.
I think that a lot of people were highly surprised when they got into that car, how good it was. And a lot of people thinking, it's a little MX-5. It's a small sports car. It's not going to be very dynamic and very fun compared to something like the F-Type, the Jaguar F-Type. You know,
the old saying is it's much more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow.
Of course.
And pushing that MX-5 it's a hoot.
It was a lot of fun. So now these cars will probably filter down into the press fleet in the next few weeks. We'll be driving some of them. I know that Brad and Sean are like, yeah, good luck with ours. They're not going to give us any. What?
I don't think I'm going to get the Rolls or the Viper.
Well,
anytime
the Rolls came down before the event,
And you hogged
anticipated. What? I had it for like 4 days.
And you tacked on how many extra miles? You even said it the last time you reviewed it that you
Yeah, but
killed a loan
rules
or
are
two.
there to be broken. If they have a 250-mile limit on miles, I'm going to do at least 400 in it. And they know that. I think they write that into they know Nick Miles can't be trusted with our cars, and he's going to do a lot more mileage on them. I think there's a lot of cars in there that I would love to drive. Unfortunately, the police Charger is going back next week. I could have had it this week, but I'm off on traveling today, so I couldn't actually have it. They wanted to give it to someone that was going to drive it for 4 days. That didn't include me. They said you can drive it back from the event, and I had to be on Fox the next day. So a lot of good fun. If you are a member of the automotive press, you can apply to the Northwest Automotive Press Association, and if you want to follow what they do, the website is NWAPA. I got that right? .org. Go and check the press. Is it not?
It needs some updates. Check our Facebook page.
Yes, check our Facebook page. There you go for that one. Run to the Sun will happen again the same time next year. Going to make the last segment pretty robust here on Test Miles. Going to talk to John and Brad and Sean about the VW scandal that has been breaking again today with new admissions. That 2007 they received a letter from Bosch telling them that they may be in trouble with a couple of things. Also, there's a big recall that sort of went under the radar this week. A car company from Europe now building a factory. They broke ground on Friday, and a lot more stuff coming away, including why the guys at FCA, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, love the Pope even more than they did before he arrived in the U.S. That's all coming up on Test Miles. I'm Nick Miles.
It's Test Miles on FM News 101. Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
Live from our studios in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning, this is America's Car Radio Show. I'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. And don't forget, join us on TestMiles.com anytime, 24/7, with all the latest car news.
Here's a fun fact. The Subaru WRX is the most ticketed car out there.
Exactly. And it's probably nothing to do with the Subaru WRX. It's to do with the guys that drive it, but there you go.
Because it's so much fun to drive.
Right. It attracts a certain kind of guy. Looking at the biggest news stories of the week, VW dominates the news with the diesel scandal. VW admits to having software in their vehicles that cheated on emissions. Is that a good explanation, John, or can you explain it better?
It's the software in the car recognized the test and put the car into a mode that it would never operate on the street.
And so that mode then gave it less emissions?
Less NOx emissions.
SS NOx. So nitrous oxide, is that what it puts out, right? The tailpipe. The problem with that being, so it recognized the test, it put out less noxious gas out of the back tailpipe, 40 times the limit. But unfortunately, when that was happening, the fuel economy goes down when they kind of clamp on the emissions, right? So that's what most consumers are upset about.
Right. The fuel economy goes down, the power goes down, and it consumes, if it's equipped with a urea system, it consumes it at a much faster rate.
Right. So damaging, I think going to be seriously damaging. Brad, there was also some new news this morning about this from Bosch.
There was. Bosch announced that they had written a letter. It was Mr. Bosch. Sorry, I don't remember his first name. Sent it off to VW in 2007. And also in 2011, engineers warned the management that it was illegal and we shouldn't be doing this. And they said, yeah, we know.
So clearly a problem from 2007 onwards. Deepening scandal for VW. Fallout? Anybody? Does anybody think this fallout is going to be any kind of a...
Well, biggest question is there going to be a diesel market in the U.S.? And so far, the used car market hasn't really been affected by it, but it's too soon to tell. They're going to probably end up having to buy vehicles back. They've already put away $6.5 billion, which I think is about 3 times too little.
Yeah, the company's stock price has actually plummeted by a third over the past week, whipping billions off the market value. VW faces a potential fine of up to $18 billion in the United States, although analysts are now saying that figure is likely to be significantly lower in the company's corporate regulations. And once they start cooperating with lawmakers, still consumer groups and shareholders very upset about this. And VW expected to see lower sales. That's 6.5 billion euros, which is actually $7.3 billion. Is probably not going to be enough for the cost.
It's one thing to anger regulators and pay fines, but VW has angered their customers, and that's going to take a lot longer to recover from.
In the Northwest, 40% of the vehicles sold here are diesel, and out of that, about 40% of the people buy it because of because the diesels were clean enough. So interesting fallout might be really bad for them, especially in areas like this where diesel was hot.
So here's a long-term philosophical question. They're talking about upwards to $18 billion in fines, jail time. Let's go back just a year or two to Toyota and General Motors, where people were actually killed. General Motors paid less than $1 billion in fines. Nobody went to jail. Toyota, a little over $1 billion. Nobody went to jail.
Yeah, the big questions come up in the news over the last week or so. 134 deaths associated with the General Motors ignition switch problem, $900 million in fine. Toyota faced a $1.2 billion fine, and there was 5 deaths associated with that. So still some sort of unbalance there. Not sure of the calculation that the federal government used in leveraging those fines. And now VW faces a much harsher penalty for something where the environment suffered.
An interesting question is Volkswagen the iceberg, or is Volkswagen the tip of the iceberg? And more people are saying that there's going to be a lot more on this. We're going to be talking about other manufacturers in the next couple of years. And Volkswagen's just the first.
And in an October report, there were several other manufacturers, including Volvo, Hyundai, and Jeep, who were implicated in problems. VW and Mercedes both saying that they didn't
adamantly came out and said we're fine.
Excellent. Well, I'm sorry for them, and it would have been nicer if it had a better ending. Also in the news this week, Hyundai is recalling and replacing the engines in nearly 500,000 Sonata sedans in the US because of manufacturing defects that could cause them to stall. The recall covers 470,000 vehicles between December 11th, 2009 and April 12th, 2012 at the company's Alabama assembly plant is where they were made. Equipment is they have in is the 2-liter or the 2.4-liter gasoline engine. Volvo also announcing that they will be building a plant. They did groundbreaking on Friday, which will make their S60. That'll be in South Carolina as well. And Jenny, you had a story too.
So unless you've been living under a rock for the past week, you should have heard that the Pope has managed to make his way over to the United States, and he's been comfortably cruising around the East Coast in a Fiat 500L.
Right, you would expect the Pope to drive probably an Italian car, but he chose the Fiat 500L. My enjoyment and surprise, I was sitting next to all of the Chrysler people when the news broke, and the Fiat PR manager was sitting right next to me, and I showed her pictures of the 500L, and she said, "Wow, it's going to be really good for our sales." Perhaps they're going to cancel our advertising campaign for the vehicle because the Pope seems to have done everything for them. He actually endorsed several companies while he was here. One of them was American Airlines. He flew American Airlines as well. And for a bunch of people in this room that fly regularly, and that wouldn't have been our choice, but there you go. American Airlines is what the Pope chose.
For a guy who's not all for capitalism, he's done a brilliant job in supporting it.
Yeah, I think at some point he has to drive something, right? So
what happened to that old Pope-mobile with the little bubble?
He chose very economical vehicles specifically because he wanted to show a simpler lifestyle and stuff. So he chose economical vehicles with a simple lifestyle.
When he was visiting the Philippines a couple of years ago, he had a Kia Pope-mobile.
And of course, his Pope-mobile that he had in the United States was Jeep. I don't know if you saw that. The actual Pope-mobile itself was a Jeep, but he rode around in that 500L. And it actually has stadium seating in the back, so the rear seats are higher than the front seats, so you could see the Pope a little better. My favorite part of the Pope's visit, almost the 500L, but the best part has to be when his security lifted a baby out of the crowd that was wearing the Pope's hat. and carried it over to the Pope, and he kissed it. So he kissed a mini Pope. There's so many movies could be made about that. Pope kissing mini Pope. I'm Nick Miles. You've been listening to Test Miles. We're here 24/7 at testmiles.com, Facebook, Twitter, and everything else. We'll be back next week. Have a fabulous week and drive safely.
Throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com.